Good evening, one and all. We welcome you to the International Health, Well-being, Environment and Sustainable Development 2022 on occasion of World Diabetes Day on November 14, 2022, commemorating Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav, nation celebrating 75 years of independence, and UN Sustainable Development Goals SDGs 2015 to 2030 as part of awareness and campaigns, international webinar series on holistic health, well-being and sustainable development 2022. Before we start our sessions, let's take the blessings of Almighty.
कुरुत्वं कल्याणम् आरोग्यं धनसम्पदः शुभं कुरुत्वं कल्याणम् आरोग्यं धनसम्पदः शत्रुबुद्धिविनाशाय दीपज्योतिर्नमोऽस्तुते दीपज्योतिर्नमोऽस्तुते शुभं कुरुत्वं कल्याणम् आरोग्यं धनसम्पदः शुभं कुरुत्वं कल्याणम् आरोग्यं धनसम्पदः.
With the blessings of Almighty, we shall continue with the sessions. Adults were living with diabetes in 2014 compared to 108 million in 1980. The global prevalence of diabetes has nearly doubled since 1980, rising from 4.7% to 8.5% in the adult population. This reflects an increase in associated risk factors such as being overweight or obese. Over the past decade, diabetes prevalence has risen faster in low and middle income countries than in high income countries. Diabetes is a major cause of blindness, kidney failure, heart attack, stroke, and lower limb amputation. Health diet, physical activity, and avoiding tobacco use can prevent or delay type 2 diabetes. In addition, diabetes can be treated and its consequences avoided or delayed with medication, regular screening, treatment. The Assembly adopted Resolution 61 by 225, designating 14th November as World Diabetes Day. The document recognized the urgent need to pursue multilateral efforts to promote and improve human health and provide access to treatment and healthcare education. The resolution also encouraged member states to develop national policies for the prevention, treatment, and care of diabetes in line with the sustainable development for their healthcare systems. Access to diabetes care. The theme for the World Diabetes Day 2022 2021 to 2023 is Access to Diabetes Care for the tri-annual theme this year, starting from 2021, 2022, and 2023. 100 years after the discovery of insulin, millions of people with diabetes around the world cannot access the care they need. People with diabetes require ongoing care and support to manage their condition and avoid complications. The centenary of the discovery of insulin presents a unique opportunity to bring about meaningful change for more than 460 million people living with diabetes and the millions more at risk. United, the global diabetes community has the numbers, the to bring about meaningful change. We need to take on the challenge. So, diabetes is a chronic disease which occurs when the pancreas does not produce enough insulin or when the body cannot effectively use the insulin it produces. This leads to an increased concentration of glucose in blood, glycemia. Type 1 diabetes, previously known as insulin dependent or childhood onset diabetes, is characterized by lack of insulin production. Type 2 diabetes, formerly called as non insulin dependent or adult onset diabetes, is caused by the body's ineffective use of insulin. It often results from excess body weight and physical inactivity. So, gestational diabetes is hyperglycemia that is first recognized during pregnancy. A healthy diet, regular physical activity, maintaining a normal body weight, and avoiding tobacco use are the ways to prevent or the delay of the onset of type 2 diabetes. Diabetes can be treated and its consequences avoided or delayed with diet, physical activity, medication, and regular screening and treatment for the complications. As a global issues of health, the World Health Organization, WHO, is one of the many members of the UN family engaged in health-related matters, which includes, among others, the Joint United Nations Program on HIV, population mental health and the health-related activities of the United Nations Children's Fund, UNICEF. So promote and bring awareness among the people. Education is required on diabetes, education to protect tomorrow. The World Diabetes Day, IDF, that is International Diabetes Federation, is calling on policymakers to increase access to diabetes education to help improve the lives of one or more than 500 million people living with the diabetes worldwide. Support our call of the National Health Minister or policy worker through our online platform is a request that is made by the World Diabetes Day by International Diabetes Federation. So the theme of 2023 is education to protect tomorrow. Access to diabetes education is the focus of the second year of the World Diabetes Day 2021 and 2023 theme. World Diabetes Day was created in 1991 by IDF and the World Health Organization in response to growing concerns about the escalating health threat posed by diabetes. World Diabetes Day became an official United Nations Day in 2006, the passage of United Nations Resolution 61 by 225. It is marked every year on 14 November, the birthday of Sir Frederick Banting, who co-discovered insulin along with Charles Best in 1922. World Diabetes Day, the world's largest diabetes awareness campaign, reaching a global audience of over 1 billion people in more than 160 countries. The campaign draws attention to the issues of paramount importance to the diabetes world and keeps diabetes firmly in the public and political spotlight. The Diabetes campaign is the platform for the global driver to promote the importance of taking coordinated and connected concerted actions to confront diabetes as a critical global health issue. The campaign is represented by a blue circle logo that was adopted in 2007 after the passage of the UN resolution on diabetes. The blue circle is a global symbol for diabetes awareness. It signifies the unity of global diabetes community in response to the diabetic epidemic. Every year, the World Diabetes Day campaign focuses on the dedicated theme that runs for one or more years. The theme for the World Diabetes Day 2021-23 is access to diabetes care. If you for someone who does or just want to learn more about the condition, improve your understanding about diabetes. On this occasion of World Diabetes Day, diabetes spiraling out of control, new figures from the International Diabetes Federation revealed the alarming growth in the prevalence of diabetes around the world. 1 in 10 adults have diabetes. 537 million adults around the world are living with diabetes, and 643 million adults are predicted to be living with diabetes by 2030. Almost 1 in 2 adults living with diabetes are undiagnosed. 4 in 5 people with diabetes live in low and middle income countries. 6.7 million adults are estimated to have died due to diabetes or its complications in 2021. And 966 billion USD global health expenditure due to diabetes in 2021, as per the source IDF Diabetes Atlas, 10th edition 2021. Diabetes is a significant global challenge to the health and well-being of individuals, families, and countries. Governments must turn words into action to provide affordable and uninterrupted access to diabetes care for all people who require it and help prevent the condition in people at high risk. Access to diabetes care is a theme for this tri-annual theme 2021 to 2023. If not now, when? 1 in 10 people around the globe has diabetes. A century after its discovery, insulin and other fundamental components of diabetes care remain beyond the reach of millions who need them without treatment or sufficient support. People with diabetes are at risk of serious and life-threatening complications like heart attack, stroke, failure, blindness, early amputation. Over 700 million people are expected to be living with diabetes by 2045. 3 in 4 people with diabetes live in low and middle income countries. Half of all people living with diabetes are undiagnosed. 1 in 2 people who need insulin cannot access or afford it. The World Health Organization, Global Diabetes Compact, and 2021 resolution call for urgent coordinated global action to tackle diabetes. These are significant milestones, but words must be turned into action. IDF, International Diabetes Federation, calls on national governments and policymakers to ensure affordable access to fundamental care for people living with diabetes, develop policies to improve the prevention of type 2 diabetes, improve screening to ensure timely diagnosis and prevent diabetes related complications. And finally, implement mechanisms to engage fully in the development of policies to tackle diabetes. United, the global diabetes community has numbers, the influence and determination to bring about the meaningful change. We need to take on the challenge. If not now, when? This year marks the century of discovery of insulin or invention of insulin. Insulin at 100, a life-saving discovery, but more remains to be done. Nearly 500 million people are currently living with diabetes worldwide. Without action, the figure could rise to 700 million within the next 25 years. This potentially debilitating chronic condition can lead to life-threatening complications when left untreated and early death. Let's look at the journey of the medical miracle. October 1920, Frederick G. Banting has an idea for insulin research. November 1920, Banting meets John J.R. MacLeod. May 1921, Banting begins experiments assisted by Charles H. Best. August 1921, Banting and the best first use extracted insulin to regulate the blood glucose of dogs with severe diabetes. December 1921, James B. Collip joins the research team to help purify their crude insulin extract. January 1922, successful insulin injection is administered to Leonard Thompson on January 23. On October 1923, Banting and MacLeod are awarded the Nobel Prize for the discovery of insulin. Decades of innovation to provide care. In 1924, first specialized insulin syringe, and in 1954, the first disposable glass syringe. In 1955, first oral medications for the type 2 diabetes became available. And later on, 1965, first blood glucose test strip, and 1971, first blood glucose meter, 1979, first commercial insulin pump, 1982, human insulin was introduced, 1985, first insulin pen was introduced, 1996, analog insulin was introduced, 1999, first continuous glucose monitoring CGM system was introduced. In 2000, first islet cell transplantations conducted. In 2013, first artificial pancreas. So IDF is leading a 3-year World Diabetes Day campaign to increase access to diabetes care and highlight the need for more action to prevent diabetes and its complications. As preventive and precautionary measures, and also to bring awareness on education, diabetes education to protect tomorrow, the rise of diabetes is putting healthcare professionals under increasing pressure. They need to make the most of the limited time. They have to provide the best possible advice and care to the millions of people affected by the diabetes. So governments have committed to ambitious targets that will guide their action on diabetes over the next decade. Investment in the training of healthcare professionals is essential to improve diabetes diagnosis rates and quality of life for people with diabetes. 1 in 9 people will be living with diabetes by 2030. Almost 1 in 2 people with diabetes are diagnosed. Diabetes coverage to be achieved by 2030. Target 1, 80% of the people with diabetes are diagnosed. Target 2, 80% of the people diagnosed have a good control of blood glucose. Target 3, 80% of the people diagnosed have a good control of blood pressure. Target 4, 60% of the people with diabetes over 40 years receive statins. Target 5, 100% of people with type 1 diabetes have access to affordable insulin treatment and glucose self-monitoring. Today, diabetes affects more than 500 million people. Almost half do not know they have it, This puts them at increased risk of life-threatening complications such as heart attack, kidney failure, liver damage, lower limb amputation, sexual dysfunction, diabetes, putting health systems under increasing pressure, preventing people. Here are the common warning signs: blurred vision, excessive thirst, unintentional weight loss, frequent urination, lack of energy, slow healing wounds, frequent infections, tingling or numbness in hands and feet. These can be mild or absent in the people with type 2 diabetes. And the risk factors for the type 2 diabetes are a family history of diabetes, unhealthy eating habits, lack of physical activity, being overweight, age, high blood pressure, ethnicity, a history of diabetes in pregnancy, poor nutrition during pregnancy are the risk factors for type 2. For more than 95% of the time, people with diabetes are looking after themselves. They need to understand their condition and keep their diabetes knowledge up to date in order to manage it. So education today can help protect.
A lot of people do not have access to care, and it's quite a challenge to find test strips, insulin, supplies, sensors are out of the market.
I think the biggest thing now is to make sure that access to the basics like insulin and blood glucose monitoring becomes available for everyone in the world.
The theme for World Diabetes Day 2021-2023 is access to diabetes care. Millions of people with diabetes around the world do not have access to the diabetes care. People with diabetes require ongoing care and support to manage their conditions and avoid complications. We cannot wait any longer for the medicine, technologies, support, and the care to be made available to all the people with diabetes that require them. Governments to increase investment in diabetes care and prevention. The centenary of the discovery of insulin presents a unique opportunity to bring out meaningful change for more than 530 million people living with diabetes and the more millions at risk. So education to protect tomorrow, education to stop the rise. The rising number of people affected by diabetes is putting added strain on healthcare systems. Healthcare professionals must know how to detect and diagnose the condition early and provide the best possible care, while people living with diabetes need access to the ongoing education to understand their condition and carry out the daily self-care essential to staying healthy and avoiding complications. Education to protect tomorrow is the theme of the second year of the World Diabetes Day 2021-23 campaign, as already mentioned. Activities will be focusing on highlighting the need for better access to the quality diabetes health professionals and also people with living with diabetes. The International Diabetes Federation is also committed to facilitating learning opportunities for all people concerned by diabetes. A new online platform has also been launched, providing free interactive courses to help people with diabetes need for the better. The rising number of people affected by diabetes is also putting added strain on healthcare systems and nation expenditure. So education to protect tomorrow as a theme will focus on highlighting the need for better access to quality diabetes education for health professionals and people living with diabetes. This new online platform, which was launched, providing free interactive services to help people with diabetes and their carriers to understand and manage their condition. For healthcare professionals, The IDF School of Diabetes offers a selection of free and premium online courses that help them to keep them up to date with various aspects of diabetic management. And various events are being organized on occasion of World Diabetes Day. You may join events like this across the world to be part of these celebrations or also get involved in various events. Let's look at the clinical guidance on diagnosis and management of diabetes. Screening every patient at admission for hyperglycemia. Screen every patient at admission for hypoglycemia with at least 2 capillary blood glucose values, 1 pre-meal and 1 post-meal value by glucometer. Every patient with diabetes should be started on a diabetic diet. Kindly ensure that the patient strictly adhere to the timing and the quantity advised in the diet chart. Has a suggested algorithm for screening of hypoglycemia in patients admitted. Do a random at the time of hospital administration, perform a pre-meal and a 2-hour post-meal CBG with the first major meal in the hospital, and send blood per FPG and HbA1c next morning. If at least 2 days hypoglycemia are high. Initiate pharmacotherapy if any of the test values meets the given glycemic thresholds. Random CBG should be less than or equal to 180 mg by dl, and pre-meal 140 mg by dl, post-meal 180 mg by dl. FPG 110 mg by dl, HbA1c 6.0%. So here, 3 steps are suggested. Step 3, like sending blood for FVG and HbA1c next morning for screening of undiagnosed hypoglycemia in initial 24 hours of admission. If BG level is less than or equal to 250 mg DL, check urine blood ketone levels. If positive, immediately consult endocrinologist or physician. Start diabetic diet if the values are higher than the cutoffs given in the step 4. Start pharmacotherapy if the values are higher than the cutoffs as mentioned in step 5. So FVG less than or equal to 126 milligrams per DL and HbA1c 6.5% lab values are diagnosed of diabetic mellitus. Even if initial blood glucose monitoring was normal, repeat monitoring should be considered if steroids or drugs with the potential to affect glycemic status are initiated and there is an increase in severity, especially in the pandemic with the severity of COVID-19 to account for less stress, hypoglycemia. High RBG admission and outcomes in case of COVID-19. So bed glucose monitoring strategy for individuals with no evidence of stress, hyperglycemia, or undiagnosed diabetes at the initial screening. Hypoglycemia at the severity of the disease. Patient is initiated on pre-initiate blood glucose monitoring, BBF, BL, BD, AD, for at least 2 days, which can be decreased to twice a day if values are normal. And if individual is at high risk, for high-risk individuals, cardiovascular disease, obese, age 50, more than 50 years, monitor blood glucose twice a day, every 3 to 4 days. A patient with normal initial glycemic profile may develop stress hypoglycemia during the course of illness, especially if COVID severity increases. Besides institution of glucocorticoids for the treatment of primary decrease, disease may also contribute to the hyperglycemia in such an individual. Thus, glycemic assessment should be an ongoing dynamic process and not a one-time event. Oral anti-hypoglycemic drugs, OAD, treatment of patients with unknown diabetes who are on OAD at admission. To continue OAD if all of the below mentioned criteria are fulfilled. COVID symptoms are mild, KFT and LFT are normal. If the patient does not fulfill all or above criteria, consult endocrinologist, physician to start on basal bolus insulin regimen, also called as multiple subcutaneous insulin injections or MS2 regimen, or intravenous insulin infusion, depending on BG levels, section B. So to initiate OAD in patients newly detected to have diabetes at admission, pre-meal BG 150 to before 150 to 180 mg by DL, or post-meal BG 200 to 250 mg by DL. Consult endocrinologist or physician at the earliest to initiate or optimize OAD. If there is an anticipated delay in consulting endocrinologist or physician, initiate on tab metformin, either immediate or sustained release 500 mg BD, and a gliptin tab vidagliptin 50 mg BD, or tab sitagliptin 100 mg OD, or tab linagliptin 5 mg OD or tab teneligliptin 20 mg OD, provided patient meets all the following criteria. Pre-meal blood glucose is between 150 and 180 mg/dl, and or post-meal blood glucose is between 200 and 250 mg/dl. Other criteria as mentioned in section 2A are fulfilled. If BG levels at the admission are above the range mentioned, pre-meal 180 mg/dl or post-meal blood glucose 250 mg/dl, start on insulin, preferably consult endocrinologist or physicist, or again go back to referring section 3A. Do not initiate drugs like pioglitazone and SGLT2 inhibitors in the patients, especially with COVID. In moderate to severe COVID, stop pioglitazone and SGLT2 inhibitors if a patient is already taking them. These are for clinicians. For the others, it is just an awareness. Administered by professionals and not for allied health professionals or for common people. And any administration or guidance should be the health professionals. Basal bolus insulin regimen. To initiate insulin for patients newly detected with diabetes, indication at admission, pre-meal BG less than 180 mg/dl or post-meal BG 250 mg/dl. Daily dose TDD 0.4 units per kg per day, age less than 65 years, and nephropathy or liver disease use 0.2 units per kg per day. Total daily dose is divided equally into 4 doses, 25% each. 3 doses are for bolus insulin, regular insulin, 30 minutes before breakfast, before lunch, and before dinner, and 1 dose for basal insulin injection, NPH insulin at bedtime, 2 hours after dinner. For example, 50-year-old male with body weight of 60 with pre-meal BG of 184 mg/dl and post-meal BG of 302 mg/dl. Total daily dose is 0.4 units per kg per day. That is 0.4 per day. So initial C30 minutes before breakfast, 6 units SC, 30 minutes before lunch, and 6 units SC30 before dinner. Injection NPH insulin, 6 units SC at bedtime, 2 hours before dinner. If the patient is on AAD and blood glucose levels are uncontrolled, pre-meal BG less than 140 mg/dl or post-meal BG 180 mg/dl. If pre-meal BG value is 140 to 180 mg/dl or post-meal BG value is 180 to 250 mg/dl, consult endocrinologist physician for OAD optimization. If pre-meal BG value is less than 180 mg/dl and or post-meal BG value is 250 mg/dl, despite being on OAD, start bolus insulin regimen using calculation method mentioned in section 3A. Kindly note that this in particular scenario, OADs apart from metformin and gliptins need to be consult endocrinologist physician for optimization. Here, CVET is bolus insulin injection. Regular insulin may not always be needed for all by DL on a given day, regular insulin should be added before the meals on the next day. For example, on a given day, BG levels increase from 1 to 12 mg by DL or BL to 204 mg by DL, 2 hours AL. Here BL before lunch and AL is after lunch. Since increment is 40 mg by DL, 92 mg by DL, injection regular insulin should be added before lunch on the next day. So if FPG is less than or equal to 140 mg by DL and post-meal increment is BG level is normal 40 mg by DL, then one can add basal insulin injection, NPH insulin bedtime, 2 hours after the dinner. Patient is ready on basal bolus insulin regimen at admission. Continue existing regimen, monitor blood glucose levels and review the BG with log on to endocrinologist and physician to switch to basal bolus insulin regimen from insulin infusion. Consult endocrinologist or physician to switch on basal bolus insulin regimen. If there is an anticipated delay, calculate the total daily dose TDD based on insulin infusion requirements for the last 24 years. TDD, if it is equal to 80% of the total daily insulin requirement on IV infusion in the last 24 years. Once you have the TDD, calculate the doses of bolus insulin, injection regular insulin, and the basal insulin injection NPH insulin as described in section 3A. Refer to step B and also example. So important pointers. These are mostly clinical guidelines, which may not be required. So we will skip all these things. As we have already seen, diabetes mellitus refers to a group of diseases that affect how the body uses blood sugar glucose. Glucose is an important source of energy for the cells that make up the muscles and tissues. It's also the brain's main source of fuel. The main cause of diabetes varies by type, but no matter what the type of diabetes one may have it can lead to excessive sugar in the blood. Too much sugar in the blood can lead to serious health problems. Chronic diabetes conditions include type 1 diabetes, type 2 diabetes, potentially reversible diabetes conditions include prediabetes and gestational diabetes. Prediabetes happens when the blood sugar levels are higher than normal, but the blood sugar levels aren't high enough to be called diabetes. And prediabetes can lead to diabetes unless as already seen, the diabetic symptoms depend on how high your blood sugar is. Some people, especially if they have prediabetes or type 2 diabetes, may not have these symptoms. In type 1 diabetes, symptoms tend to come on quickly, and be more severe. Some of the symptoms of type 1 diabetes and type 2 diabetes are feeling more thirsty than usual, urinating often, losing weight without trying, presence of ketones in the urine. Ketones are byproduct of the breakdown of muscle and fat that happens when there is not enough insulin available, feeling tired and weak, feeling irritable or having other mood changes, having blurry vision, having slow healing sores, getting a lot of infections such as gum, skin, and vaginal infections. Type 1 diabetes can start at any age, but it often starts during childhood or teen years. Type 2 diabetes and the more common type can develop at any stage. Type 2 diabetes is more common in people more than uh, age of 40 and older. So when to see a doctor? If you think you or your child or any of your family member have diabetes, if you notice any possible diabetes symptoms, contact your healthcare provider or an healthcare professional. The earlier the condition is diagnosed, the sooner treatment can begin. If you have already been diagnosed with diabetes, after you receive your diagnosis, you'll need close medical follow-up until your blood sugar levels stabilize. How insulin works? Insulin is a hormone that comes from a gland behind and below the stomach called pancreas. The pancreas releases insulin into the bloodstream, and the insulin circulates, letting sugar enter the cells. Insulin lowers the amount of sugar in the bloodstream. As the blood sugar level drops, so does the secretion of the insulin from the pancreas. The role of glucose. Glucose, a sugar, is a source of energy for the cells that make up muscles and other tissues. Glucose comes from two major sources, food and the liver. Sugar is absorbed into the bloodstream where it enters cells and also with the help of insulin. The liver stores and makes glucose. When glucose levels are low, such as when you haven't eaten in a while, the liver breaks down stored glycogen into glucose. This keeps your glucose level within a typical range. The exact cause of most types of diabetes is unknown. In all cases, sugar builds up in the bloodstream. This is because the pancreas doesn't produce enough insulin. Both type 1 and type 2 diabetes may be caused by a combination of genetic or environmental factors. It is unclear what factors may be. So risk factors for diabetes depend on type of diabetes. Family history may play a part in all types. Environmental factors and geography can add to the risk of type 1 diabetes. Sometimes family members of people with type 1 diabetes are tested for the presence of diabetes immune system cells, autoantibodies. If you have these autoantibodies, you have an increased risk of developing type 1 diabetes. But not everyone who has these autoantibodies develop diabetes. Race or ethnicity also may raise the risk of developing type 2 diabetes, although it's unclear why certain people, including Black, Hispanic, American Indian, and Asian American people, are at higher risk. Prediabetes, type 2 diabetes, and gestational diabetes are more common in people who are overweight or obese. So let's look at the complications. Long-term complications of diabetes develop gradually. The longer you have diabetes and the less controlled your blood sugar, the higher the risk of complications. Eventually, diabetes complications may be disabling or even life-threatening. In fact, prediabetes can lead to type 2 diabetes. Possible complications include heart and blood vessel cardiovascular diseases. Diabetes majorly increases the risk of many heart problems. These can include coronary artery disease with chest pain, angina, heart attack, stroke, and narrowing of arteries, atherosclerosis, If you have diabetes, you are more likely to have heart disease or stroke. Nerve damage, neuropathy. Too much sugar can injure the walls of tiny blood vessels, these are capillaries, that nourish the nerves, especially in the legs. This can cause tingling, numbness, burning, or pain that usually begins at the tips of toes or fingers and gradually spreads upward. Damage to the nerves related to the digestion can cause problems with nausea, vomiting, diarrhea, or constipation. For men, it may lead to erectile dysfunction, kidney damage, nephropathy. The kidneys hold millions of tiny blood vessels, clusters, glomeruli, and filter waste from the blood. Diabetes can change the delicate filtering system. Eye damage, retinopathy. Diabetes can damage the blood vessels of the eye. Diabetic retinopathy. This could lead to blindness. Foot damage, nerve damage in the feet or poor blood flow to the feet increases the risk of many foot complications. Risk and skin and mouth conditions. Diabetes may leave you more prone to skin problems, including bacterial and fungal infections. Hearing impairment, type 2. Hearing problems are more common in people with diabetics. Alzheimer's disease, type 2 diabetes may increase the risk of dementia, such as Alzheimer's disease. Depression. Depression symptoms are common in people with type 1 and type 2 diabetes. Complications of gestational diabetes. Most women who have gestational diabetes deliver healthy babies. However, untreated or uncontrolled blood sugar levels can cause problems for you and your baby. Complications in your baby can be caused by gestational diabetes, including excess growth. Extra glucose can cause the placenta. Extra glucose triggers the baby's pancreas to make more insulin and make extra insulin. This can cause your baby to grow too large. It can lead to a difficult birth and sometimes the need for a C-section. Low blood sugar. Sometimes babies of mothers with gestational diabetes develop low blood sugar, hypoglycemia, shortly after birth. This is because their own insulin production is high. Type 2 diabetes later in life. Babies or mothers who have gestational diabetes have a higher risk of developing obesity and type 2 diabetes later in life. Death. Untreated gestational diabetes can lead to a baby's death either before or shortly after birth. Complications in the mother can also be caused by gestational diabetes, including preeclampsia. Symptoms of this condition include high blood pressure, too much protein in the urine, and swelling in the legs and feet. Gestational diabetes. If you have or had gestational diabetes in one pregnancy, you are more likely to have it again in the next pregnancy. So how do we prevent diabetes? Type 1 diabetes can be prevented, but the healthy lifestyle choices that help treat pre-diabetes, type 2 diabetes, and gestational diabetes can also eat healthy foods. Choose foods lower in fat and calories and higher in fiber. Focus on fruits, vegetables, and whole grains. Eat a variety to keep them feeling bored. Get more physical activity. For example, take a brisk daily walk or jogging. If you can't fit in a long workout, break it up into smaller sessions throughout the day. Lose excess pounds. If you are overweight, losing even 7% of your body weight can lower the risk of diabetes. For example, if you weigh around 90 kilograms, losing 6 or 7 kilograms can lower the risk of diabetes. But don't try to lose weight during pregnancy or overnight. Talk to your provider about how much weight is healthy or for you to gain during pregnancy, and also keep checking BMI. To keep your weight in a healthy range, work on long-term changes to your eating and exercise habits. Remember the benefits of losing weight, such as healthier heart, more energy, and higher self esteem. Sometimes drugs are an option. Oral diabetic drugs such as metformin, Fortimate others may lower the risk of type 2 diabetes, but healthy lifestyle choices are important. If you have pre-diabetes, have your own blood sugar checked at least once a year to make sure you haven't developed type 2 diabetes. So with this, we shall conclude diabetes symptoms and treatment prevention. If you have any queries, you can use chat box. If there are no queries, then we shall conclude the session. So dear friends, we request everyone to kindly fill up the feedback form. It is mandatory for receiving your certificates. Attendance is being tracked automatically by the platform. Based on the attendance, certificates will be issued within specified time. You can download your certificates from the website once they are available. Take care. Good night. Before leaving the platform, kindly fill up the feedback form.